Hi again, everyone. Today I just want to talk about the basics of materials, and what I want to do is open up Blender, and I've created a new blend file. It's called Cube Sphere. I've just changed the whole cube to a sphere now, and exported that as a blend file and as a pod, and I've dragged it into my project. But just before I leave Blender, we're talking about the basic properties of materials. And in Blender or in any 3D modeling program, you'll find that there's a very handy description to the material that you're using. And just to quickly go through the basics, as I'm sure you all know, the diffuse color is just the intrinsic color of a body. And in this case it's red, and we could change it to anything you want. You know, there's blue is the diffuse color. It's just the main color that anything actually is. In this case we're using red for the red material. The intensity is set there at 0.8. If it's 1, you can see it's a little bit brighter. Back to 0.8, which is the standard. The next thing you have is the specularity. And that's specular is that little shine that you have up there on the sphere, and that's intensity is 0.8 again. If I put it up, it's a bit brighter. You can have a different specular color. It's white at the moment, but if I change it to kind of a limey green, you'll see that on the sphere there it's gone to a limey green, and it's just the reflection that the body has for whatever light is shining on it is the specularity. Down here we have the hardness of the material. In Cocos3d, that's called the shininess. There's a standard hardness given to materials in Blender of 50. If you bring it down to 1, you'll see that you get this kind of blurry look. Bring it up to about 10 and it starts to ease off a bit, up to 20, and you can see the way the material is starting to give a sense of being kind of soft polyurethane sort of thing, but still a little bit rubbery. And if you shoot it all the way up, then there's the 50, which is standard, and bring it all the way up then to the top one, which is 511 in Blender. You can see that's a hard material. That looks like a snooker ball because the shine back is fairly defined. And finally then, to look at it in Blender, we can look at the emission. So emission is just the color that or the brightness that a body will shine with. It's like a light has an emission. So if we put that right up to 2, you'll see that the sphere is actually radiating light now at this stage, and you can bring that up even further, even though it's a limit of 2 on the slider. If you go up to 50 there, you got a really bright sort of a slider. There's also the ambient color. I'll deal with that when we get into CC3. That's generally just the light that bounces around behind the object where the shining light isn't lighting. It's just kind of the light that shines the backside, let's say, of an object. Okay, we'll be dealing with transparency as well when we get in. But that's just the basics there of material properties. Okay, so when you open up Xcode, I've got another addition to my project now. I've brought in there. That's the cube sphere.pod is what it's called, the new one. And in the main layer, I'm starting to develop a little side project. I've got a type def enum there called the required scene, and at the moment I've got k node scene and k material scene. And inside in the layer, then when it opens up the layer, it says load the required scene, and the one we're going to load this time is material scene, and that's a method in the main layer that will switch to whichever scene we want and load it up. And we'll be developing that into a menu as this goes on. Okay, and finally then the material scene I have is just a copy of the node scene. I've called it material scene. I've given myself an origin definition there to the 0 point of the scene, and then in the material scene I've just done a few little changes. The backdrop is the same color. The camera is, I've moved this slightly up, and it's in the same position on the z-axis. I need to really talk about there's the x-axis, which is over and back this way from left to right, the y-axis, which is the up and down in Cocos3d, but it's actually reversed in Blender. The y-axis and the z-axis in Blender are reversed, but in Cocos3d, the y is the up and down, and the z is the coming towards you and going away from you axis. Okay. In the lamp, I still have it at 222, and I don't know if I had it as directional only, which is the standard setting in the first one, but that's the way it is now. It's just a standard light that will light from wherever it is straight towards the origin. Okay, there's the res node coming in, and I've got pointers to the sphere and the split cube, and the split cube has the back faces showing. So if we run this, just to show you what we're dealing with, you can see that there we have the action working on the sphere. We've got the split cube and the mixed cube. Okay. First thing I want to do is get out of that, and I want to just switch around the positions of the sphere and the split cube. And I have a little bit of code to do that here. I'm using a CC3 vector, which is just one of these, a CC3V123 positions X, Y, and Z. Variable, and I'm taking the sphere's location into that lock variable, and then I'm taking the sphere's location and making it equal to the split location, which is the split cube, and then I'm taking the split cube and setting that to the original lock, which is the sphere location. So that should just swap around the sphere and the split cube, and there you go, very straightforward. And now, what I want to do is say, if you decided, okay, you want to change the material of the sphere, and you wanted to change its color, so if you just get rid of that, there's comment to say sphere diffuse color. I'm going to set it to a blue color now. And if I press run now, you'll notice what happens is that not only is the sphere color changed, but the split cube color is changed and the mixed cube color is changed, because they share the same material. Now, if you're working on a project, the sensible thing to do is to have the right material, the different material on each object, so that when you're bringing it into Cocos3d, all you're doing is tinkering with that particular material. But if you had a situation like this where you had the same material shared by a few and you wanted to separate one of them, what you'd have to do is put a new material on the sphere, and you do that by going sphere.material, and you set it using this class method for CC3 material with name blue material, I've just called it. And all you're doing there is just saying whatever material was on the sphere, get rid of that and give it a new material. And if I run it now, you'll see in a second that now the old red material is left where it's supposed to be, and the sphere has taken on a new material, which is a blue material. Okay. Now everything else after that I've got here is just pretty much stuff that you can experiment with yourself. Just get the properties. There's the ambient color, which you won't see a whole lot. I'll be doing lights in the next 1 or 2 videos, and we'll see what difference that makes. In this case, you won't see a whole lot about it. The specular color, let's change that. We'll just run it again with the specular color changed to yellow. And here we go. And you can see now, if you were looking at the blender thing, you'll see that that obviously means that the material is soft, because it's showing this kind of overall specular thing. So what we can do with that is adjust its shininess, or its hardness in Blender. And if I set the shininess to 200 there and run it again, you should see that we've got a more reasonable sort of a little shine of yellow on the sphere material. And the final thing there is the emission color, and then I'm going to make it orange, and we'll just see what that looks like when we run the iPad. There you go. We've got an orange emission, which is shining through everything and kind of overpowering the specular and the general diffuse color. And you've got a kind of weird sort of a color effect going on there. Okay, so that's the emission color. The last thing I want to show is the opacity. And what I want to do is if I just move the camera location over to the side. So if I move the camera location, I'll take it away from this position of being in the front at 18 and 3 above, and we'll cut that, and I'll put in this new position, which is -7. So we're moving over towards the left hand side. It's 4 up and it's 0, so it should be right on the middle of the z-axis. So we're moving basically over to the left of where the objects are. And what I want to show is the opacity, and I'll just take those comments off there and run it. And you'll see now that we're above the sphere, the split cube looking across, and you can see now that the sphere is locating like a little bubble, but you can see clean through it into the cube on the other side. One thing to watch out for if you're doing that is that one of the things that's brought in the template is this line here, self.opacity equals 255, and that's to counter sometimes you bring in pods and the opacity is set incorrectly, so it just kind of resets everything to full opaque. And if you're putting in, you're looking for opacity, you have to make sure that it comes in after that comment so that it actually will change. Okay. One final thing that I forgot to mention at the start of this was that instead of using the select active camera move in 3 seconds to show everything, that kind of focusing thing we do with the camera normally, what I've done in this case is put a self active camera set target location to origin, which is that defined 000 point, and that means that no matter where I move the camera to, it'll always point towards the origin. And just to kind of illustrate that, if I uncomment this and take out the origin, and we put it pointing to the split cube, I'll go back up there to the top and back to the original camera location to show this effect, something like that. And if I run it now, you can see that we have the split cube, which is over on the left, the sphere turning in the middle, and you can't actually see the mixed cube anymore because the camera has started focusing right on the split cube at this stage. Okay,